So I'm going to show you what's been marked D5 for identification, and I would ask you to take a look at it. There's highlighted portions on there that we'll get to in a second, but I just want to identify first what it is. And if you can look at the first page and identify for me what the invoice number is associated with that.
23917.
Okay, and if you look at D4 for identification, is that consistent with the invoice number 23917?
That is correct.
Okay, so you would have gotten a packet, assuming you got it,
Okay.
you would have gotten a packet similar to S19, which would have had all the pages 1 through 16 in D5, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, take a look at, if you can open it up, and take a look at some of the highlighted entries there. You see those highlighted entries?
I do.
Okay. Take a look at them and tell me if you see anything there that would sort of jump out at you.
Appears to be duplicate payments at the same time period. For
Okay.
about 15, 20 officers.
23 to be exact.
Okay.
So, if we just so the record is clear, there would appear to be the same officer, 23 different officers, whose name appears twice in a row for the same date and the same shift, and they were paid twice for that same time period, correct?
Correct.
That wouldn't be correct, would it?
That would not be correct.
That would be being paid twice for only 4 hours worth of work. You'd be getting 8 hours worth of pay, correct?
That's what the paperwork suggests.
So the DOT got overbilled, if my math is correct, about $4,600 on that pay period, correct?
If your math is correct.
Okay, it's usually not, but it's close enough.
It's not his math. It's not his math in this case.
So that mistake right there would have gotten through the Office of Off-Duty Personnel, correct?
Correct.
It would have gotten past you if, in fact, that was submitted to you when you signed that certification attesting to its accuracy, correct?
That's correct.
And it would have gotten past the DOT when they review the paperwork, because they get that same document as well, that payroll document, correct?
I'm not saying, it may not have gotten past them, they may have caught it, and that's why the payment got delayed and getting reimbursed to us.
Okay. Do you have any information whatsoever that those 23 officers ever had to pay back their mistake?
I do not know that.
But these are the kind of things that you had talked about earlier, where mistakes are made and human error occurs, and sometimes with all of the stuff that's going on in the Office of Off-Duty Personnel and vouchers and payroll logs and things of that nature, that sometimes things aren't done exactly the way they're supposed to.
Correct.
You were just shown a document by Mr. Garrity clearly demonstrating, and I understand that it's highlighted, but clearly demonstrating multiple payments to multiple officers for one of the pay periods in question, correct?
Yes.
Now, before you walked into this courtroom today, you met with Mr. Stoner previously, correct?
Yes.
And when you met with Mr. Stoner, you prepared your testimony, correct?
Yes.
And when you met with him prior to grand jury, you prepared your testimony, correct?
Yes.
At any time, did Mr. Stoner or anybody from the prosecutor's office show you a document, and we'll go specifically to D5. Where'd it go?
Yeah.
Oh. And say, we're doing a good faith investigation into the Skyway detail, Carmageddon. And we noticed 23 cops paid twice for the same exact work. Can you explain that? Did he ever say anything like that?
No.
Did he ever raise with you? When I say he, let me be clear. I'm talking about anybody from the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. Did they ever raise with you one time some issue with regard to anomalies in the paperwork related to the Pulaski Skyway detail over the summer of 2014?
He acknowledged that there was some clerical errors made in the process of the paperwork.
Who acknowledged that?
Mr. Stoner and I talked
When was this?
during our preparation for this testimony.
Today?
Not today.
Last time?
In the last few weeks.
Okay, so it's your testimony that Mr. Stoneman showed you D5 and said, what's up with the double payments on this?
Objection, that's not what he testified to. He made no reference to D5. He said that they talked about some clerical errors.
What clerical errors?
Clerical errors.
Do you object?
I withdraw the question for clarification. You just said something about clerical errors. What clerical errors did you discuss?
Just clerical errors in the processing of the payments to the DOT.
Which ones?
Nothing specific.
Nothing specific. So he raised with you that there were clerical errors and didn't point one out to you?
I think I may have mentioned to him.
What did you say to him?
I said I understand that DOT kicked back some vouchers because they were clerical errors on them.
And you told that to the state, Mr. Stoneman.
I did mention that.
And you say you believe that the DOT kicked back clerical errors?
Yes.
Are you aware if he ever shared that with the people whose freedom is on the line?
I have no idea.
I see. So, this conversation occurred sometime in the last week or two, month or two, when was it?
Probably in the last few weeks.
I see. And you advised Mr. Stoma that in fact clerical errors were located with regard to DOT related issues and matters were kicked back by DOT. That's your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Did he ask for those documents?
I don't work for the city anymore, so I don't know.
Did he ask where he might be able to get those documents if he did work for the city? Who we might talk to?
He didn't answer.
Do you know if he pursued it with you further?
I do not know.
Do you know if he have any other information if he pursued it with anybody?
I do not know.
I see. And so it was, your testimony is a week or two ago, that issues of clerical errors were raised by you to Mr. Stone.
I mentioned that.
I see. Okay. Judge, let the record reflect. I've received nothing further with regard to clerical errors in the run-up to this case.
And we'll start again first thing in the morning on...
Tuesday, Your Honor, but I'm asked to be heard for
Okay,
Wednesday.
you got it.
Your Honor, I have glad to report that to this moment, I've been confident that everybody's played nice in the sandbox here. This witness, just under oath, testified that in some conversation with Mr. Stoneman, anomalies with regard to DOT-related issues related to this matter were brought to Mr. Stoneman's attention and were conferred about with regard to this. Mr. Stoneman didn't, interestingly, didn't ask one question about it on redirect. I would like Mr. Stone to show cause right now as to what the witness was talking about, what anomalies he has, and if Mr. Stone was saying that the witness did not give accurate information then because Mr. Stone would be a witness to this conversation, we need to hear that as well. Because if I did not get something about some anomaly or something that was caught up with regard to this thing, and I'm just learning about it now from a witness, then that is highly offensive and sanctionable, and that's what we just heard testimony about.
Because I don't have anything to provide. I don't dispute that Mr. Kakoleski may have mentioned something about clerical errors. I have provided every piece of paper in this case. And with respect to clerical errors, Mr. Kakoleski indicated that he was non-specific with respect to, he thought that DOT may have noticed some clerical errors. Judge, I don't have any information in that regard. I have provided every piece of paper that exists in this that would be able to identify any clerical errors. Every piece of paper. In fact, Judge, if I may, D5 is a document that was produced in discovery which shows clerical errors. This may be what he was referring to.
Well, based upon that, when he mentioned this to you weeks ago as he testified, was there follow-up where you would have asked him, what clerical errors are you talking about?
Judge, and I think he was very clear that he was non-specific with respect to that.
But he said,
Did he provide to the prosecutor, whether it's yourself or your investigator, with regards to the DOT providing him with regards to what mistakes were made?
No, Judge, and he indicated that there as well, that he was non-specific with respect to his testimony was that there may have been clerical errors. I don't have any information. There was nothing that was followed up on that this state that I, representing the state in any way, shape, or form, had any specific information to turn over regarding clerical errors. Mr. Kakoleski testified he was not specific in that regard. Every piece of paper that the state has, Your Honor, has been turned over.
But there's a way of being specific. you don't just mention clerical errors and walk away. If he received information from the Department of Transportation, kicking back some of these pay vouchers, saying there's errors here, that's specific.
Judge.
That's, that he should have received. And mentioning it to you, there should have been some way of obtaining these clerical errors, because it could really affect the defendants.
If they exist, Your Honor, he was not specific with respect to whether they even existed. But there
But then
are,
why mention it?
but there are clerical errors, Judge, and this is not about clerical errors.
I don't know.
It's about anomalies, for sure.
I mean, it becomes a question when I have a witness under oath that's mentioned that he's had a conversation with the prosecutor's office with regards to anomalies, mistakes that were made, that the DOT has kicked back some of the pay reimbursement letters that were sent in, and there was no follow-up saying, you know, what in particular. If it addressed, when I say I don't know, I meant to indicate that are any of these anomalies, were they raised and maybe with regards to any of the defendants?
Judge, again, I don't have any information in that regard because Mr. Kakoleski didn't provide any specific information with respect to these defendants or specific information at all based upon his testimony with respect to clerical errors that may have existed with the DOT reviewing paperwork.
What the court fears is, God forbid, this exculpatory information with regards to these defendants and errors, whatever this witness is referring to, and what was mentioned in a conversation that he had with the prosecutor's office. That's what really concerns this court during this trial. With that being said, I need the assistant prosecutor to really look into what specific. Any suggestions from counsel?
Yes, I would like a
Because
report.
then the issues, if I ask the prosecutor to look into it, of what was just mentioned with regards to these anomalies, mistakes that were made, clerical errors, I have no idea. Does it all mean the same thing? Is it clerical errors as to the defendants? I don't know. Nothing was done of it. This is what I fear. And when you have this D5 of 23 mistakes, and I hear...
That was provided in discovery, Your Honor.
I
That was
understand it was
provided in discovery. That was available to the defense.
But then the question becomes, of what I hear, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there was some sort of, if these 23 mistakes of these officers, did they pay back the money of this $4,800? And if not, we're talking about a $4,800 theft that these officers, so now we have, what, selective prosecution going on?
Judge,
I don't know. I don't think so. I
Judge,
hope
that
not.
issue has already been raised and decided in this case with respect to whether there's selective prosecution. This is a case that, at this particular time, Judge, is focusing in on it was raised in the motion to dismiss the indictment that was litigated. There was a specific issue that was raised in this case with respect to that.
I didn't make it.
Did you even make a motion?
I did not make a motion to dismiss the indictment.
But be that as it may, Judge.
I did not. I was not the judge that heard the motion.
At this particular
so I'm
time,
not
Judge,
sure.
this is a trial about their conduct and whether the state has provided all information that is potentially exculpatory with respect to their conduct. And with respect to their conduct, Judge, I have provided every piece of paper that we have or that existed with respect to the DOT and reimbursement and the invoices and the like. Clearly, they have the paper. If you refer back to Mr. Garrigan's opening, they've identified anomalies in the paperwork. The state has hidden nothing. The state has.
I understand.
So the idea that there was this,
And that's not what the court is saying, prosecutor. I am not saying that the assistant prosecutor has hid anything. I'm saying that there was a conversation, or at least what he testified to, where he mentions something coming back from the DOT as to anomalies, as to mistakes, as to I don't know what, and I don't know whom. Where is this DOT that they kicked back? I would presume it's in a memo or some letter where the Department of Transportation says we're not paying these amounts. Maybe it is D5 with regards, and they caught it ahead of time and payments were not made. I have no idea. But at the same time, you would have as what was describe from the testimony, City of Jersey City makes the payments first, then they get reimbursed. Was there a reimbursement as to these 23 officers with regards to the double dipping, or however else you want to phrase it, these 23 mistakes?
Judge,
may I?
what does that have to do with these defendants, and very specifically, Judge, with respect to whether Mike O'Neill was on that corner on June 3rd or June 6th, or whether Mike Maietti, who will testify that he was not on those corners on those particular days when his paperwork was processed, what does it have to do? How is it clearly exculpatory or exculpatory at all with respect to what these individuals are alleged to have done in this indictment?
Judge, just briefly. What Mr. Stumler fails to understand here, Judge, is that the argument is that the paperwork, he has a witness, an investigator, Jasper, who specifically testified before the grand jury, that I looked at all of the paperwork involved in this case, and I selected the paperwork with regard to these individuals because they were the only anomalies that I saw, and therefore it led to them being charged, which we argue was simply ruse for going after these individuals for filing lawsuits and making the complaints. You heard it all in my opening statement. So I'm not going to rehash that, but that's the theory behind it. So if in fact, for example, Joseph Wadetko, one of their witnesses, got paid twice on the same day, which on September 17th got $400 for 8 hours worth of work, which we know he can only have done 4. Did he pay that money back? Because I'm hearing from him that maybe he did pay the money back. Well, if he did, where are the documents? Where's the proof that he paid it back? And there are a number of other people out of these 23 that are going to be state's witnesses. Now, they're going to take the witness stand, and I don't think, unless Mr. Stoneman talks to them about it over the weekend, I don't think they're going to realize that they got paid twice, or they knew they got paid twice and didn't open up their mouths because they got paid twice. And my client's sitting on trial for $800 worth of invoices, and these people are getting paid, and no one's doing anything about it.
To what extent is the state required to follow through with the possibility, because it may possibly, under any set of circumstances, which I don't concede at all, that it's in some way goes to the credibility of certain witnesses when he's not specific about what was caught. It does not go to the heart of this matter, and it does not go, there was not anything specific with respect to whether it went to any of the witnesses in this case.
Judge, I'll just ask a very simple question, because he didn't say whether or not he provided writing. I have a simple question, maybe you could ask the prosecutor. Does he care, as a prosecutor in the state of in Hudson County in charge of the official corruption unit, does he care that people got paid twice? Does he care?
It's another issue, Judge. It's a completely separate.
These are witnesses in his case.
It's a completely separate issue, Judge. If Mr. Sierra has already threatened to raise that with every witness that comes in here, and he can and should, that's an argument that should have been raised in advance and was with respect to whether, in some way, shape, or form, these defendants can't be prosecuted, because not every defendant in Jersey City is prosecuted by this office for potential deviations and for potential criminal conduct with respect to the Office of Off-Duty Employment. That's not a defense. It's an issue that's raised pre-trial, it was raised pre-trial, and it was denied. When we get here, we're talking about these defendants and this fact pattern. And under this fact pattern, because those signatures would have been golden if those defendants were actually standing on those corners, the DOT could catch nothing. I wish they could. If they could, Judge, maybe we wouldn't be here.
I'm asking for a writing, Judge.
I think it would be inappropriate, and it goes well beyond what the state would be required to provide. And I think, Your Honor, when you grasp what the case is here, what's already been done and what's already been litigated, and when you look at the fact that the DOT could not catch Captain Askelis for falsifying a pay voucher because Captain Askelis had the ability to write and sign his name to any legitimate pay voucher. But that's what the state's position is.
Is it fair to say, or please correct me if I'm wrong, you do not deny that your conversation with Mr. Kakoleski was what occurred as he testified, consistently?
As he testified, Judge, which was non-specific.
And that's what you would have put in a memo?
That there was, that he mentioned clerical errors?
A couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, and mentioned to you, and there was no follow-up.
I don't deny that, Judge.
That's your right. I'm not going to order, I'm not in the middle of this trial, okay? Respectfully. So, but I do note it for the record.
Thank you. It'll be reserved for argument and everything else.
I do note it for the record.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.